Hello, welcome to the SAT Essentials Key Testing Rules and Patterns. We're going to go over some things that are going to make you more prepared in terms of the format of the SAT exam. First and foremost is that any multiple choice answer choice set that you have on this exam is going to have 4 options to choose from, and that's throughout the entire exam. So section 1 and 2, which is your reading and verbal sections, are pure multiple choice. There's no grid and response. When you get to the 3rd and 4th exam, which are your math sections, they start off multiple choice, and then after that is the grid and response. There is no penalty for guessing when you are doing either of those question types. So make sure you leave every single answer answered on the SAT. There's no penalty for guessing. That is actually a newer feature within the past few years. So definitely take advantage of that. And I did want to go over how to fill in the answer choice when you have this grid and response, like for instance on section 3, the no calculator section. You can either fill it in from right to left as seen here, but I really don't recommend it that way unless you are for some reason more comfortable with that. It does require you to kind of know your spacing really well of your answer. But if you know that your answer is 8.7, you can just go ahead and write it left to right, and then you don't have to worry about counting the right amount of spaces, especially if they're asking you to round or anything like that. You can just figure out your answer, write it in first, and then bubble in. That's usually the best way to do it because that you're making sure that your bubbles are proper to where they need to be and that the numbers are correct. Also, something to think about is on the math sections, the difficulty resets itself every time you go into a new answer type. So what does that mean? Number 1 is quote unquote the easiest question of the multiple choice section, with 15 being the hardest. And then 16 is quote unquote the easiest, and then 20 is supposed to be the hardest for the grid and responses. I say quote unquote because ultimately it's about what kind of material are you comfortable with. Sometimes the wording does get more difficult, but there's plenty of instances where you'll think 20 is a breeze and then 17 is kind of hard, and that's perfectly normal. Don't sweat that if that happens. One thing that I also want to emphasize on is the calculator policy. Just make sure that your calculator is approved. You can do that by clicking on this link here or Googling, SAT calculators. And you just want to get to their official page here. It's actually nice that they made this page. It used to have to go to like other resources. And you just scroll on down, find the brand that you use. I use Texas Instruments, so I would click on that. I see the TI-80. I know I'm good to go because everything here listed is approved. Make sure you're practicing with that calculator. It's a really common habit for students to have like their phone calculator used like when they practice, and then on test day it's actually their first time using the calculator. That brings up so many issues like battery problems, but more importantly like formatting. You're not used to like answering or putting in your numbers in a certain way, and that's going to take away from test day. So figure out your calculator on day 1, practice with that calculator so that it is truly a comfortable option for you. All testing centers open at 7:45 a.m. That doesn't mean you should get there at 7:45. That means they start getting students into the building at 7:45. So you should be there even earlier, 7:30. That way you got time to park, you don't got to sweat traffic, and that you make sure you have all your documents and things like that on you, which we'll go over in the next video. And in terms of the optional essay portion, this is always an interesting question. The way I put it is, if you know you don't need it, that's the only time you shouldn't take it. So if you don't know whether or not you need to take the essay portion, that means you probably should. The only instance that you have here is that you don't take it is, okay, there's one school I want to go to. I know for sure from admissions that they do not want my essay, or they don't want an essay. Then yes, you're good to go. Just take the first 4, pay less time, you're good to go. But if you don't know whether your school's taking it or not in terms of an essay, or you're not sure even what schools you're applying to, go ahead and do it, because you want to make sure that you have your options as open as possible, so that way you have everything you need when you submit your testing information and your transcript. Best of luck. Let me know any questions. You can do it.